What's going on, guys? Tom from Team Paradigm coming at you with a nice little feature match from our locals this past week. And as you can see here, we have Swordsoul versus Runick Spright, Captain Copium himself, as I like to call him, Tyler on the right, featuring a guy from our locals, Alex, who kindly agreed to allowing us to film him. Very grateful for that. But as we can see, I won't kind of hold out any longer and talk about anything unnecessary. We can see obviously that Alex has won the die roll, started off with the Swordsoul Emergence and activated Pot Desires to get those extra cards to his hand, searching the Moyi, which he is now just normal summoned. Unfortunately, we can't exactly see what he reveals here off of the Moyi, but I believe it to be Longyun. Obviously, we're just going to see standard stuff here. He's going to go straight for the Qizhou, get the search and get the draw. I think it's kind of cool that the Moyi can chain block that Qizhou. It's very interesting because normally you want to chain block your draws, right? But it's the completely other way around this time. And I think it's because obviously the deck plays a lot of non-engine, so you want to make sure that you're going to see the card that you want to see. And searching Blackout means, yeah, the likelihood is Alex does have the Longyun in hand. I think we can see it blue in Tyler's hand there, which is kind of nice. Discarding the Ashuna, which feels really good off of the Longyun, and being able to go into a level 10. Not sure what we're going to see here. And, oh, Qixing Longyun. Okay. I understand that. It's very standard play. I feel like at that point, if your opponent hasn't nibbed you, you feel pretty safe to go into whatever synchro you wish. Burning for that 12. Setting one card. Tyler's giving that a little read. Okay, and setting a second card and just passing the turn, yeah. So, I felt like this format, both of these decks are pretty cool. I see a lot of Sprite variants doing sort of better at the moment. Not necessarily Runick Spright though. I've maybe seen one or two kind of tops out of this deck, but for the most part, it is kind of like the pure Sprite, Adventurous Sprite, Live Twin Sprite variants that are doing better. But Tyler likes to cope, and Tyler likes to get his money out of his cause. So I don't think the deck's bad. I think a big problem with the deck is non-engine and things like that. Not being able to play non-engine in your deck because you're playing all the Sprite cards and all the Runick cards. You're left with very little room to actually kind of innovate the deck. But the interaction with the cards are pretty good. So. Like the interactions of the actual Runick cards are very good, especially with the field spell being able to basically turn them into hand traps. It's a very interesting concept. I'm not a fan of the Runick cards. I think they're quite broken. But that's a discussion for another day. So, quick play-by-play. Obviously, we've seen the Dispelling come down to some of the Hugin. He's pitched Destruction to attempt to search the Fountain, and that was met with the Qizhou Negate, and immediately seeing the blue coming down here to search for what I believe to be Jet. Obviously, if you don't have Jet in hand, you're probably searching red. If you already have Jet in hand, you're probably searching red or carrot. But obviously we can see here that he doesn't have the Jet, so obviously searching that Jet. And I think here, in this scenario, you probably want to search for Smashers, just to try and eat the board up a little bit more. But I feel like even searching Starter here is fine. But obviously attempting to summon the Jet and use the effect, that's going to be met with an Infinite Impermanence. Again, pretty standard. Not to be, you know... like I don't blame people for making that, for doing that. You know, searching Smashers is quite scary, especially when you know that they have a lot of, like, the deck has a lot of gas. And then here, obviously on the summon, using the Qixing Longyun to banish that Gigantic Sprite and burn Tyler here for 1200. Yeah, I think this deck obviously puts up a lot of interruption, especially when Gigantic isn't on summon. It can be a little bit more frustrating. And Runick Destruction here coming down. I think they were just talking about whether or not it was in the imperm column there. Yeah, it was definitely in what I would call Zone 4 from Alex's perspective. And an Ash on the Hugin. Okay, so we're really not wanting Tyler to get to the Fountain here, which, to be fair, that's totally understandable. I don't think Tyler discarded for the Hugin, though, which is quite bad. Well, we'll see if it makes a difference. Hopefully it doesn't. Blackout being activated, obviously he can't because there is only one monster on his opponent's side of the field. So, bit of a misplay from our Swordsoul player here. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think here, especially if you know what Runick Spright wants to do, it's normally going to be summoning an Hyperia here, or something along those lines to be able to draw a card to try and get more cards in hand. I feel like, you know, you can lock them into 2s before kind of committing to popping any cards on the field. But as we can see here, I believe we saw an Ash in the hand, and the Blackout obviously being activated here, targeting the Chi and the Hyperia and Gigantic Spright. Obviously, there's no other cards on Tyler's side of the field. I don't think Tyler isn't too bad of a position here, obviously, depending on what his hand is. He's got 3 cards in hand. We know one of them's an Interruption. We know one of them's a Hand Trap. Just seeing what the rest of the hand is, really. Yeah, that's kind of the primary thing there. Just checking his grave, obviously. I'm surprised that Alex kept the Qixing Longyuan up. I guess, you know, for the extra burn damage is kind of nice, and being able to slowly remove the runic spells from play is pretty good as well. But Flashing Fire coming down and destroying the Qixing Longyuan. Yeah, I see no reason to not activate it in response. He's probably holding out that banish effect for a fountain in case it was hard drawn, which I don't blame him for. Banishing 2 off the top, but Longyuan doesn't feel very good, and especially seeing the tip come down right afterwards, you know that he's going to be searching a direct interruption for your turn. But banishing the Ashuna, now that's not terrible, especially if we top deck an Adhara. We have 2 options to add back. Obviously we have the Longyuan and the Ashuna, so depending on what the hand is, we can kind of mold around it. But let's see what comes from our Swordsoul player. Now, if I remember rightly, I think I heard at this locals that he had actually bricked at this point, so he didn't have many cards in hand that would actually do anything. So I think obviously if you had even just a Moyi in hand with a worm to reveal, I feel like you would play into the freezing curses just to kind of prevent, you know, access to Fountain, because there's obviously a reason why we don't have Fountain on the field. There's only 1 card in hand. It just makes a lot of sense. You're out advantaging your opponent at the moment, and you're making them relying on drawing exactly what they need, which is more than likely going to be starter. But here you're kind of allowing them to play the game for free, near enough, because they're obviously going to, you know, if they don't use it to interrupt you, they can use it to summon a Hugin. If you don't have a way to interrupt the Hugin, they're getting to Fountain, which then means, you know, if the next card in their hand is any Sprite or any normal summon, like Hyperia, they're able to get into Gigantic. Well, actually, no, maybe not in this scenario, because obviously 2 Gigantics have been summoned, but they definitely have a way to keep their engine going. But we can see here Vessel for the Dragon Circle coming down. Cycle, I believe. Dragon Cycle. Coming down, sending the Adhara, which I don't think is necessarily terrible, but if you don't have any other engine in your deck, I feel like I'd rather keep that card in the deck, because being able to add it, obviously draw it, and then summon it to get to your Monk, it then makes your Adhara live in the grave to add any worm back. But we can see a little bit back and forth here, Tyler drawing and passing. And that's another pass from our Swordsoul player. So, like I said, I do believe he bricked a little bit here, which is unfortunate, but it seems that so did Tyler, so it's a little bit of a pass fest here. Tyler's setting a monster, which we can probably assume is Ash. Otherwise, you would normal summon any other guy, any other level 2. And again, passing back and forth here. Just slowly replenishing the hands as well, which can be quite dangerous when you're playing against Runick Spright, because their top deck could be anything. And as we see here, the Freezing Curse is coming down, which means Tyler's obviously drawn something. And yeah, discarding the Gamma Seal off the Hugin effect. Yeah, and I think they're just having a little chuckle here about how none of the Hugins have resolved. Setting 1 card from Tyler's side and passing the turn. And another pass coming out of our Swordsoul player. That is genuinely surprising. I feel like at this point you've drawn sort of 5 cards. You would, well, you have 5 cards in hand. You would at least, you know, hope to see something. But I digress. Obviously, he's passed the turn. We see a normal summon of the Cap Shell here, being able to kind of go into anything they want. And Mannequin Cat coming down here, I think, is pretty good here, especially knowing that the Adara is engrave and stuff like that. They don't have a Vishuda engrave, but being able to grab the Adhara here and summon an Hyperia to draw an extra card, and also the Cap Shell. So we're going to be able to draw 2 cards here off of the off of just this interaction alone. So obviously drawing there and then drawing off the Hyperia. Do we have enough cards to push through this is the main question. And yeah, Spright Red's coming down here, so he's kind of protected from everything. Yeah, any sort of any hand trap that our opponent has at this point now, because they can't activate Imperm. They have Adhara on the field. A little bit of a cheat there. Didn't flip summon the Ash Blossom to then Link. But going into Muckraker. Now this card's actually really interesting. I know Joshua Schmidt was the kind of person that started to play this, I believe, or at least made it known that Spright could play this, because you're able to just discard anything, bring it back the Cap Shell, and this kind of prevents a bit of a disruption. And then obviously Nibiru coming in, and Spright Red just obviously negating that, and we see obviously the 3200 damage here from the 1200 from the red and the 2000 from the Mannequin Cat, which is actually illegal. We had the freezing curses activated this turn, so that shouldn't have been able to have actually gone through here. But we'll see what happens. So we obviously get Moyi summon here. Is it just the summon? No effect? Wow. So we're having a bit of a bad time here. Just having to punch over the Spright Red, but obviously next turn, provided that Tyler has another Hyperia, well, he doesn't even need another Hyperia. All he has to do is go Mannequin Cat, summon back the Adhara. Well, Mannequin Cat triggers, summoning back the Hyperia to draw a card. And then he has 2 more level 2s on the field to be able to play a little bit more. And Vessel, okay, that one is Heavenly Dragon Circle, not Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. Being activated, obviously, to search. Now, I believe that was tributing off the monster that was summoned by the Mannequin Cat. Which obviously means that she doesn't get her summon effect, I believe. So yeah, just getting in for a little bit of chip damage here. Slowly whittling away. Summoning out another red, obviously providing that monster negation. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of standard back and forth stuff now. Not really much else to say. Using the effect of Adhara in hand to attempt a special summon. Probably going to link off into Monk. And then Adhara obviously being able to try and add something back. We have the Mannequin Cat targeting the Monk. Going for Ash, which I don't think is terrible. You don't want to give them too many cards. I think here you're already in a position where they're going to be getting a lot more advantage anyways, just because they're interrupting you enough, which means you can't play the game, and then you're able to bring back, and the Flashing Fire to out the Monk of the Tenyi, which is also just painful. But another, okay, I can see now why our opponent bricked here. Another copy of Heavenly Dragon Circle coming down, tributing off that Monk to probably search. I don't know, I guess it depends on what's in the hand, right? We have a red live on our opponent's field. Yeah, it feels like it's probably just something like Vishuda to try and bait that red. I think the only way that we can really get back into this game is if we special summon that Vishuda. Probably link off into another Monk. Attempt to bounce. And then we have Taie in hand. So unless that card is specifically Taie, Tyler's going to get another turn, and it could very well be light for our Swordsoul player in this game 1. It's quite a long game 1, actually. And oh no, we're seeing the cards being counted in the deck. This can only mean one thing. Tyler's drawn a couple of runic cards and is trying to deck his opponent out. However, with the options that Alex has left in the deck, we can very well see just an absolute blowout coming from Alex. Banishing through off the top, that Moyi would have been quite nice, but we'll see what happens. We now definitely have a Tie live, so if we see a way to get rid of that red and then a Tie effect, we should be pretty okay. Unfortunately, we don't see that, so we're just gonna have to slowly keep waiting. I think it's just unfortunate for Alex here, just not really drawing what they need. Just attempt to activate Swordsoul Emerges there to maybe search. Maybe he doesn't have a target left in deck. So this is probably the game here. Unless he plays Summit. Normal summoning Ecclesia? Or probably special summoning, of course. Punching over the red, hopefully having a normal summon to be able to make a play. Unfortunately not. And here we go, Sprite starter, probably bringing out blue. Blue goes into Jet, Jet goes into something else, and yeah, that's the end. So here we have game 2. Shuffling up. The likelihood is obviously Alex is going to be going first here. And now that is not a very pleasant hand. We do see a couple of okay things, but we see multiples of runic cards, which is not something that we want to see turn 1. We see the Adhara coming down here, going straight into that monk. Normal summon of the Moyi, revealing what I believe to be another Moyi. Could have been Taie, but they were definitely lighter in the color, so it's the likelihood is that it's not Longyan. So we're going to be seeing a search, probably of Longyan here. Yep. So unfortunately not ended on that blackout, which was, I feel like, was quite crucial in the game 1 there. Just unfortunate that we didn't draw anything too great in the following turns after being able to disrupt our opponent so well. But Longyan discarding the Adhara, pausing there to see if our opponent had any responses. Obviously the big rock. Maybe I'm summoning out the Qixing Longyan. Yeah, I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This combo is still pretty good against Spright. And setting 2 and just passing the turn. Yeah, I mean, it's Swordsoul. What more do you want to say, really? So we draw for turn, and I believe that was a destruction. But obviously we shall see. Just calculating here, seeing what the hand can do. Okay, so that's Slumber probably to summon. This is probably going to fetch the Chi negate if he elects to activate it, which he is. Discarding a Freezing Curses, yeah. I mean, if it happened in game 1, it's probably going to happen in game 2. You kind of want to keep them off the fountain as much as possible. Banishing that Longyan. And for whatever reason, burning for 12. Okay. That's interesting. I don't think that was meant to happen. I think Tyler's just mistaken the Chi for the Longyan. Now, obviously, they should have burnt for 12 earlier, but neither of them caught it. So, obviously, you know, it's kind of an accepted game state kind of thing at that point. Neither of them burnt for it, so we didn't burn for it on our screens. And the same thing here. And then, obviously, we're going for smashes. We don't know what they're banishing, but red's being banished out of the hand. I'm just going to see what is going to get banished from the field here. Obviously, the Hugin. I'm thinking it's going to be the Qixing Longyan because the Chi has already been used up, so it's likely going to be... Yeah. So that's where the burn comes in, obviously, from the Qixing. Banishing the Hugin and what else here? And it's going to be the back row. Okay. So banishing the Infinite Impermanence. being able to get to the fountain. And Destruction be able to eat that last back row, which is still pretty nice. Thinking of flipping it. Yeah, okay. I mean, if it's not blackout, then I can see why you would want to activate the circle there. Because then at least in the next turn you're able to banish it and search another Tenyi name. You probably search follow-up here in terms of like a Taie or something. Just kind of add a bit more resilience to your play. But grabbing Shatana here. Okay. That's interesting. Oh, am I getting the... Am I getting the effects mixed up? Is it the other way around? So it's you search for a Tenyi, and then you can search for a worm in the grave. It might be. But here we see a Freezing Curse is coming down. Just to summon a Hugin, just so we can grab the draw 3 off the fountain, and this is where this deck obviously really thrives. Being able to just recycle those resources. It's why this engine is so oppressive. I absolutely hate Fountain. I hate this deck. Just Runick, like, you know, Hugin and Fountain are both custom cards. And a Lava Golem coming down. It's pretty big, to be honest. And then Red and Jet. Oh my goodness. Okay. And this is the exact reason why I don't like this deck. You know, using the entire hand and then just being able to draw 3 more cards and play the game even further after basically just eating your opponent's entire board. It just feels very unfair. Taking 11 off the starter that was searched off the Jet, and then Jet's probably going to grab Carrot here just to set up those 2 negates. Yeah. Yeah, Gigantic's probably summoning Cap Shell here. Yeah, and then it's probably going to be Cap Shell overlay with Jet. Okay, no, this makes sense too, actually. You go for the Muckraker, you draw the card, and then you go Muckraker effect, discarding Jet, and then these 2 should probably go into a Nibimaru. Okay, that's interesting. Going into the Djinn Buster here. Obviously, in the standby is taking the 1000 burn damage off the Lava Golem. I don't understand why you would do this here, you know, seeing as it's so close to... I mean, I don't think we're close to time yet on the round. I can barely see the clock there. But I feel like Onibimaru would have been the better play, because you have 2 negates. You have a monster negate and a spell trap negate. Being able to just get rid of the Lava Golem just feels kind of correct. You see an incredible Ecclesia coming down. And Tyler just scooping it up there and going straight to game 3. I don't know what happened there, though, because he did have the negate. It's very interesting. But Tyler going first here. It's probably because we're getting so close to time. And we know what's going to happen here. We're going to see the red resonator coming down, probably from Tyler. You have the Imperm, obviously, on the Hugin, stopping getting to Fountain. Blue coming down, search for Jet. Jet, search for starter, probably. Oh, and a little bit of cheating. We're doing a little bit of cheating here. Of course, I am joking. It is only a locals, and we like to just, you know, obviously allow our friends to take things back. But here we can see the starter coming down for the Carrot, just as protection. The likelihood of what's going to happen here is it's going to overlay these 2 for Gigantic. Gigantic is going to summon out Red Resonator, and Red Resonator is going to target the Gigantic, allowing our Sprite player here to gain 3200. And there it is. And I believe that is time on the round as well, as soon as that happens. So that's the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some more videos for you. Obviously, if you like the content, please subscribe. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you all soon.